Well, howdy ho, good neighbor. It is apparent that we're back flushing and testing fire hydrants, and this video would be 7 hours long if I didn't put you in time-lapse mode, or warp speed. So I'm gonna put you on my chest, and we're just gonna film this whole day in warp speed. Well, parts of the day. And I'll put you on my chest, and we'll add some music, maybe a little talk over, I don't know. But we're gonna film something today, make my work a little more interesting. You know, work is hard enough, but this makes it a little more easy. So let's put you on my chest and test some hydrants. All right, let's get to work. Enjoy the music or the talkie over, I don't know. I don't know, never do. Well, howdy ho, good neighbor. It is apparent that we got the chest mount on and we are flushing a fire hydrant in fast motion. That's right. We got the exercise key, I guess the water key. That's the long one. So there's two of them. We got the shorty and the longy. So the shorty, you want to get about waist height is the best. So you can see I got to spin that thing around on my underground key is going down and down, and I got to get it real tight. That's right. You see how tight I got to get it? That thing's got to be super tight, because when I open up these hydrants, well, I got to grease all the stems. So that's what I'm doing here, is I grease all the see those stems? I grease those all up, and I grease the caps all up. So it's basically a repetitive motion. That's right. You can see all your arms and shoulders. Well, if you do this all day, you are going to get tired. And boy, am I tired today. I tell you what, as soon as you do this, there was no stopping all day. You just do this. And the heat on this day, well, I got it up to about 97 degrees, but of course this was in the morning, but the heat was already out. So I tried to find the shadiest hydrants. So after you grease them, you got to flush them. That's right. So you get the water. And so I got the chest mount on this flush. So I do like this angle. It moves around a little too fast, but I think I will use this camera angle in the future because I am happy with it. So after you grease all the caps and you grease all the stems, you go ahead and flush it and wipe it down. That's right. You've already did all the work. You might as well make it look pretty and take all the cobwebs off of it. So I gave that a 2 thumbs up with a kiss. So like I said, I had about 40 fire hydrants to do on this day. Well, not on this day, but over 3 days. So I think next year, you got to do this every year, but I think next year I want them to space it out where I have 1 day of physical work, 1 day of inspection work, and then go back and forth, because it really is too much work for 3 days of bending over and turning, and it just gets to be too much. So I found out with this video here is my video camera should be closer to the action, because you don't really get to see me this far away. So you live and learn by making these videos. Yeah. Too bad the clouds in the sky weren't really flowing, but you could see me exercising that valve, turning it on and off and sticking it back in the truck. But yeah, we got to get that camera a little closer to the action. So if the good thing is about any action, the people pulling up to the job site, well, that makes for some good action. And me flushing the fire hydrants, well, that always makes for some good action, but I don't think that this camera that far away does very good, so I should probably keep it on the chest mount. But like I said, you live and learn, live and learn. Well, on this day, it was hot. And a lot of people, they sit in their cars. There's an electric car where you can charge your electric cars. And these people, they show up before work and they sit in their car and charge their cars like they're getting gas. Well, as I take a sip of this coffee, I will tell you it's not easy to do this physical work at this age. But I have to be blessed that I do get to do this physical work at this age. Some days I wonder how much longer can I do this physical work, and I just don't know. So I guess I'll just keep doing it until the old body runs out. But here again is where I should probably have that camera a little bit closer. Live and learn. But you really don't want to get your camera wet. That's right, you making these videos and all of a sudden you get your camera wet, and you don't want that. So the good thing about flushing these fire hydrants this year is I had already done this last year. So I know that all the underground caps are going to come off of the ground. That's right, sometimes those underground caps, they get stuck to the ground because people drive on them all the time. So I was very fortunate on this day to have already been here a year before. But the problem with doing these fire hydrant flushes is you have to get all these done before the customers start coming into the store. That's right, you can't be flushing these fire hydrants with cars driving around. So I do have that diffuser I just hooked up. It's a fire hydrant diffuser, so when I turn the water on all the way, it doesn't spray and flood out the stores. So that's what I did there. I put that diffuser, and basically it just makes that water not shoot so far away. But there you go. They get a 2-for-1. They get a fire hydrant flush and test, and they also get a clean parking lot. And the birds love the water. And if anybody knows me, you know I love crows, and those crows love that water. And the good thing about this water is it's clean drinking water. That's right. All fire sprinkler systems have clean water going into them and dirty water coming out. So you could drink this water if you wanted to. Yep, the camera angles are getting a little bit closer, but not close enough. I think in the next one I get it a little closer, but and it seems like I need to speed up the time lapse a little bit more. I think it's a little bit too slow, but I don't know. There I am exercising that valve. You got to see how I'm standing in the street. You got to be careful there because people can come around that corner and not see you. So you got to be careful that your underground key, sometimes I pull it out so cars won't hit it. But if I'm in a low traffic area, I'll just keep the underground key in the ground. All right, there I am greasing away. And then we'll give it a good flush and move on to the next one. Like I said, This is a very physical job, but it's very satisfying because there's no pressure on hurting anything, really. I mean, of course, the fire hydrants can continue dripping after you flushed them. That's always not good because then you need to replace the seal or you need to replace the whole fire hydrant. And that is not fun because a lot of times the bolts on the bottom of the fire hydrant are all painted. So they are no fun to take off. So either you grind them off or you cut them off with a sawzall. But replacing a fire hydrant is not easy. So just because you get to just run water and exercise valves, well, there's always a chance that that fire hydrant could continue leaking on you. And now you are going to have to either shut off the underground valve or just let it drip until you get a repair situation or a new hydrant. So sometimes the new hydrants can take a while to get, so you might have a flood for a few days. But like I said, this was a job that I had already been to the year previous, so it's always nice to know that these valves are going to shut. Now this valve I had a hard time finding. The problem with these valves is they get full of dirt. All that dirt gets down into the underground valve and you have a hard time finding the key. So on this one you can see I'm digging around and digging around. I cannot find that underground key. So what you do is you dig all the dirt out of it and you dig, and then finally, there you go. Nope, I still didn't get it. You'll see when I get it because it's pretty obvious. That looks like I got it. Maybe, yeah. There it is. So yes, when the underground pit, or should I say the underground vault, gets full of mud and dirt, it really is hard to find that square water key. So now that I got that to turn off mostly, you go ahead and grease it up. You know the deal. Grease the stems, grease the caps, flush the fire hydrant, exercise the underground valve. It's just that easy. So you will notice that I did not flush these a long time with a super amount of water flowing. The reason for that is, of course, I want to make sure there's water to that fire hydrant and plenty of pressure, which I did do that. But the other reason that I didn't give that a full flow wide open is because the alarms in the mall kept going off. That's right. So you can't have people shopping and all of a sudden have the strobes and horns going off in a store. That really startles people, and you can't have people leaving the store. It just really just bugs the store owner because they just lost customers because their fire alarm just went off. So that's the reason I did not open that all the way full throttle. I just did not want the alarms going off at the end of the day. It was the reason I know that they were going off is because early in the morning, before people even got there, I flushed a couple fire hydrants and I heard the alarms going off for some reason. I thought, I don't know what they're doing. But come to find out, the fire alarms were me because the pressure would drop on the fire system and then the alarms would go off. So that just goes to tell you that nothing is easy. Even flushing fire hydrants, you could still have the fire alarms going off in the building. Yes, oh yes, oh yes. You don't want that. And I don't want that. Well, the biggest problem that I have on some of these hydrants is there's cockroaches in these underground pits. So you got to be real careful not to bring any of these cockroaches home with you. I did take a video of all the cockroaches that are in the pit. And this valve was tight. You can see me doing a walk. I'm walking around it. It was so tight that it would not spin, so you almost have to use all your weight to turn it. That's right, some of these valves are super tight. And there's my bucket of plugs I dropped. I dropped a bucket of 1/2-inch plugs, and I'm picking those up off the ground. Well, I didn't bring any cockroaches home with me, but boy, did I see a lot of them. Boy, they're everywhere out here, and you just got to be careful. Do not bring cockroaches home. I don't mind rats and mice, even ants, but cockroaches, I just do not like. But they're all God's creatures, so we got to tolerate them, just like I do some people on this earth. Well, it is always neat to see the people wandering in and out of the bathrooms, but I got a job to do. We flushed this, we greased this, we wiped it all down, and now it's time to head to the next one. And I'm just about done with making this. What do we want to call this? Fire hydrant testing and exercising video. That's right. And it's a learning experience, because what I just learned right here is you got to get the camera closer, or I'll just keep it on my chest. I found that chest mount was pretty good angle. So that's what I'll do on my next flushing adventure. I'll just keep that on my chest. Maybe back and forth, I don't know. But these long shots away, they're not very, I want to say, they don't show you a lot. All right. Well, I think I got 1 or 2 more hydrants to do, but we're done with this one. And just about done with this video. Boy, it was hot, I'm telling you. So here is one of those ones where I was in the direct sun. And like I said, it was probably 95 degrees right now. And it was hard for me to breathe. Believe it or not, it was really hard to breathe. I guess when you get to be right in the sun like this, well, it's going to happen to you. I thought about moving to the desert, but boy, this makes me think again. All right, let's see how tight I can get that. Oh, that's tight. Oh, my body sure does feel that. It was my shoulders and my neck that was really hurting, and my back. So you can see why my neck, my shoulders, and my back were hurting, because just a lot of bending over. Like I said, your arms, everything is repetitive motions. But I guess that's what keeps me young, because I am getting old and looking it. But I tell you, we got a lot of work to do here, so the young guys aren't coming up like they used to. So it just seems like it's all old men still working here. So I don't know. It is apparent that we are on a busy road right here. And here's where I hooked up that fire hydrant diffuser because I didn't want to flood the street light right there. And again, I didn't want to set off the alarms, so we didn't really flush it like we should have, but we did it. So let's put the caps back on and call this video a done. Yep. So you know the procedure now, right? Yep. You gotta pop that cap on the underground. So there you go. You spray paint that. First you pop it, and then you get your spray paint, and then you paint the cap. That cap gets painted so the fire department know where to pull and shut that fire hydrant. So after you pull the cap and paint it, you pull all the fire hydrant caps off. And now you get that underground key and you really crank on it. And I didn't like the position of that underground key. It was too low. So I got the bigger out. See how that one's like chest high? That's right. So now you're going to turn that underground key all the way off. And you can see this was a tight one. As soon as I start walking around it, that means it's a tight, tight, tight key. So there, I finally got it to loosen up, or I didn't have to walk around it. And then it tightened up again. So now you got to tighten it up. Okay, so you exercise that valve. You close it and get it nice and tight. Oh, that's tight. And then you grease your stems. So you're opening that fire hydrant all the way and you're greasing the stem and the cap and the hose connection. Pretty simple, isn't it? So after you grease the stem on all 3 hydrant outlets, well, then you go open that underground all the way back up. And sometimes they're loose and sometimes they're tight. It just depends on how often they've been maintained or serviced. That's why we do maintenance, because if you don't do maintenance, well, that valve will not close. And if somebody hits that fire hydrant, well, then we're really in trouble because you're not going to get the water to shut off. So there's that fire hydrant diffuser that I put on, so I didn't want to get that electrical box all wet. Electricity and water does not mix, and that's always a good thing. Now here is where I got the camera a little too close to the action. That's right. You can see it makes for good camera, but yeah, I think the camera got a little wet. So I was like, oh, I better go dry the camera off. But yeah, I think making the camera that close could get the camera wet. All right, well, we used our fire hydrant diffuser. That's right, that's that big old heavy thing, and the water doesn't spray that far. Now we greased all our caps, and now we're putting our caps back on. And this video has been long enough. So there you go. That's how you do an annual test on your fire hydrants. Well, as always, I want to thank you again for coming along with me on these fire hydrant testing adventures. You know the drill. Peace, love, and all that hippie jazz. Bye-bye, everybody. Well, there you go, good neighbor. We just flushed a whole bunch of fire hydrants in time-lapse mode. I got one left, but I'm not going to do any more filming. And I missed a couple that I didn't film. Those were kind of hard. I didn't want to show those. Some of them you saw I was struggling with the valve. That's why we exercise those valves every year. Well, you can see I got a handkerchief on my head. I don't know if the camera will pick this up, If you could see that right there, yep, that says 95 degrees and climbing fast. So I tried to pick all the hydrants in the shade, but at a certain time of day, they're all in the sun. So there you go, fire hydrant flushing on a 95-degree day with no wind, and boy do I feel it. I think I would have a helper here just for heat stroke purposes, but one of us would be standing around. This is a one-man gig. We need to make money. It's all about making money. Well, as always, I want to thank you again for coming along with me on these fire hydrant 95-degree flushing adventures. You know the drill. Peace, love, and all that hippie jazz. Bye-bye, everybody. Yeah, it is hot. And this is how I know when I'm finished. I make my white stripe. Isn't that a band?